Is there anybody here that's going to vote for Lion Kamala? Please raise your hand. Please raise it. Actually, I should say don't raise your hand. It would be very dangerous. We don't want to see anybody get hurt.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and so here we are, folks. Donald Trump, a convicted felon, is on the brink of another election, staring down the very real possibility of prison time, and he knows it.
I said, Sean, I only want to be a dictator for one day, and I'm going to close the borders and drill, baby, drill, and after that, I never want to be a dictator.
You know, now a murderer, I believe this, it's in their genes, and we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now.
Trump's made it crystal clear that he's willing to say and do anything to avoid that outcome, even if it means driving this country into chaos. This isn't about serving the people or fighting for American ideals. It's about saving himself, plain and simple. And as we get closer to Election Day, his words are becoming more dangerous and desperate, a signal to his followers and a warning to his critics. Just last week, Joe Scarborough laid it out. Trump's language sounds like he's preparing for civil war.
Russia, China, North Korea. We're not going to have a problem if you have a smart president. If you have not such a smart president, then it's a problem. But we have an enemy from within, which I think is much more dangerous than the outside enemy.
The level of un-American activity that you just saw is stunning. That is un-American.
Think about that. The idea of a former president, a convicted one no less, using words that could be seen as a call to arms against his own country is no small thing. This isn't campaign talk, folks. This is desperation at its peak. And Trump is harnessing it to keep himself relevant and, frankly, to keep himself out of prison. Trump fans are loyal, no doubt. Many of them genuinely believe he's the only one who has spoken for them. But the irony is they're willing to overlook the fact that he's their so-called champion is a man with a criminal record, a man whose list of personal scandals is as long as the list of conspiracies he's fed them. These supporters have become his unwavering base, unwilling to question anything he says, even when it flies in the face of logic, science, or basic facts. In their eyes, Trump is a hero. But in reality, he is a man trying to save himself at the expense of the very democracy they believe they're defending. And then there's J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, who has his own complicated relationship with the truth.
First, they tried to silence him. When that didn't work, they tried to bankrupt him. When that didn't work, they tried to jail him. And with all the hatred they have spewed at President Trump, it was only a matter of time before somebody tried to kill him.
If ever there was a duo made of pushing the limits of facts, it's Trump and Vance. They're selling a version of America that pits people against each other, that thrives on division, and that relies on fear. It's a strategy that works, especially on people so frustrated with the system that they'd rather believe a lie than face the complexities of the truth. That's where this Civil War talks come in. Trump knows exactly who he's talking to, and he knows they'll take his words seriously. For many of his supporters, Trump's claims aren't just rally chants, they're marching orders. These are people who don't think that he's fighting for them. They think he's fighting against a deep, dark enemy that includes anyone who opposes him. They've been told for years that everyone outside their circle is an enemy, and they're in a battle, not for their country, but for their very existence. And Trump keeps fanning those flames. And let me just say it. This whole act, this Civil War nonsense, it's infuriating. Here we are in a country that prides itself on freedom, on democracy, on being better than the chaos Trump's peddling. And we're watching a former president turn his own supporters against everything that makes this country great. What does he do? He paints himself as the victim, as if he's the one who's being wronged, and if he's entitled to some special treatment. This is a man who's been convicted, who's got more legal baggage than anyone in recent political history. And yet, he's out here playing the martyr, the last great hope for America. Give me a break. He's not a hero. He's not a patriot. He's a guy trying to wriggle his way out of facing the music. And the fact that he's got an army of people ready to follow him off the edge is actually why he's so dangerous. And his supporters, they're buying it, hook, line, and sinker. They believe in his every word, even when he's shown time and time again that he's only out for himself. They'd rather rally around a convicted felon than admit that maybe, just maybe, they've been lied to. The frightening part is Trump supporters see themselves as patriots defending America. But what they're actually defending is a man who's focused solely on his own self-interest. They're so loyal to him that they're willing to ignore the fact that he's a convicted felon. They're willing to believe in his version of reality, where he's a victim of a vast conspiracy rather than a man who's been held accountable for his actions. And let's not pretend this isn't intentional. Trump's rhetoric is designed to stir the pot, to keep his base angry and ready to act. He spent years conditioning them to believe that they're under attack, that the country is being stolen from them, even if he sits at the helm of some of the most self-serving, fact-free narratives imaginable. He's selling fear, plain and simple. Fear of the government, fear of each other, fear of anyone who dares to think differently. Now, let's bring in Michael Cohen's warning. Cohen, who spent years as Trump's right-hand man, knows exactly how he operates. He recently put it out there in the clearest terms possible.
He's only running to protect himself. And I don't understand why people just don't see what is so obvious. It's so glaring in front of everybody's face, but they want to ignore it. The big warning that I want people to understand is when Donald Trump says something, stop sane-washing it. Stop trying to make it into something which has some normalcy to it. What he says he intends to do. And when he turns around and says, Jen, to, like the head of this network or other people who are critics, that he intends to use SEAL Team 6 or the military within which to round up his critics or his opponents, he intends to do it.
When Trump says something, he really does mean it. That's the chilling part, folks. We're not dealing with empty rhetoric here. When Trump talks about using extreme measures, about rallying against his critics, he's not bluffing. Cohen didn't mince words. He said, stop sane-washing it. Stop pretending Trump's language is harmless or that it's just political theater. He warned that if Trump regains power, he's ready to use whatever tools he has, whether that's SEAL Team 6, the military, or any other form of force, to round up his critics or his opponents. In other words, this isn't just campaign bluster. This is a man with every intention of acting on his words, and that should terrify anyone who cares about democracy. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about patriotism. It's not about freedom or the American people. This is about a man who's willing to push every boundary, break every norm, and dismantle every institution if it means he can escape accountability. Trump is willing to do whatever it takes, and he's banking on his supporters to back him up no matter what. So the question is, are we going to let him? Are we going to allow our country to be led by a man who views the presidency as a shield rather than a service? Because if Trump has his way, if he manages to sell enough people on his twisted vision, we could be facing something far more dangerous than any political divide. We could be looking at a full-blown crisis led by a man who believes his power is more important than the best interests of the country itself. Folks, we cannot let that happen, and that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.